When I watched Marvel movies as a kid, I was like, I want to be the scientist in that movie, not actually the superhero, because I think it's kind of cooler to do that and to do the stuff in real life.
Welcome to Talk Bio to Me, the show where we sit down with the people building the future of biology. I'm your host, Flo Lumsden, founder of Chorus Studios, a podcast production company where we transform complex technologies and breakthrough ideas into human stories that educate, entertain, and inspire. This year, we headed to SynBio Beta, the world's largest conference for synthetic biology. This mini-pod features some of the most fascinating founders.
We make spores that actually eat the insects.
Scientists.
We have carbon-fixing microbes that can essentially eat emissions.
Researchers.
This is going to make DNA into a programmable material that we can use to turn biology into infrastructure.
Investors.
Because it's garbage in, garbage out on AI. And Mother Nature still works in mysterious ways, right?
And AI innovators.
I'm increasingly excited about AI actually making an impact in the lab.
Shaping the future of biotech. From breakthrough therapies to AI that's beginning to design biology, I discovered one of the most exciting technological revolutions of our time. Okay, talk bio to me. Welcome to Talk Bio with me. It's what I've named this mini-pod series. My name is Flo, and I'm a producer at my company, Chorus Studios, and I'm calling it Talk Bio to Me because I'm kind of new to biotech.
Okay.
So I might be asking some kind of simple questions. I'm trying to own it,
Okay, absolutely.
I represent the people.
That's right. The people need more voice,
Yeah, we need to.
especially these days. A little weird out there.
Okay, I've got some questions for
Cool.
you. First, if you just want to sort of basically introduce yourself, your name and what you do.
I'm Chris, lead healthcare life sciences partner at AIX Ventures.
Very cool. So we looked you up on the internet and we saw that you have invested in so many cool companies. How did you get into investing?
Oh boy, that's a long story. I think if you talk to anybody in venture, they always have some weird, freaky story of how did they get into it. It was never like the end goal. It was just a series of accidental events that led to it. So I got into venture. I was in academia, and my old boss used to be the U.S. Secretary of Defense, and he had introduced me to a bunch of cool people like Eric Schmidt and David Petraeus and Ban Ki-moon and everybody. I was working on USAID's Development Innovation Venture Fund at the time. We wrapped up that project, and all the nerds in my think tank were like, so what do I do now? So half of them went to intelligence, which is what I was supposed to originally go into. And then they were like, you should check out venture capital. And I was like, what is that? They're like, do you want to pay off your student loans? And I was like, that would be amazing, you know? Like, so I got a bunch of intros to some firms and then ended up at a firm called Harmonics Fund, where I led their healthcare life sciences and defense tech practice over there. And kind of the rest is history, you know. It was about 6.5 years ago. I think most people leaving academia don't really know what to do. And then you get out and then you're like, oh, nobody cares about my research anymore.
Right.
It's like, how do you take that same evidence-based approach that we took in academia towards investing?
So you were working at a think tank. Were you in DC?
I was at the Belfer Center at Harvard.
Oh, Harvard. And you were military health life sciences?
Yeah.
That was like the niche of the think tank?
Yeah, so the Belfer Center focuses on nuclear threat proliferation and global health security. So I was on the global health security side of the fence.
Okay.
So not the cool kind of Jack Ryan stuff, but more of the how do we save the world kind of stuff. So
That's cool. Well, the health security aspect of it, to me, in my mind, kind of like merges those two worlds, like
Sure.
military and like biotech. So that's where the connection is. That's
Indeed.
cool. So you got in at the first venture firm you were at, Helios?
Harmonics.
Harmonics, sorry, excuse me.
Totally.
And then since then, you've been a really good investor. You took that methodology, that scientific methodology, and you invested in so many unicorns.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool to see, you know. I always wanted to be like, when I watched Marvel movies as a kid, I was like, I want to be the scientist in that movie, not actually the superhero, because I think it's kind of cooler to do that and to do the stuff in real life. It was fortunate, like 2019 when COVID first hit, markets were in free fall. Nobody knew where it was going, and the best time to invest is when everybody else is scared. So, you know, during that batch of investments, I look back and I did in silico medicine, which I developed the first AI drug in human trials, and BitBio and a bunch of others. And it was cool to be like, okay, it's market arbitrage from that perspective. But most importantly, I wanted to be behind the scenes on developing the next generation of scientific breakthroughs to actually improve patient outcomes, but in a way that's doing it correctly as opposed to just overhyping it and flinging a bunch of money.
Yeah, like just AI and
Exactly,
yeah.
right? Which is like everything nowadays,
Right.
right? So,
What are some of your investments you're the most proud of?
oh man, they're all kind of like my babies. I mean, it's kind of funny because I separate them between the babies, the teenagers, and the grown-ups. You know, I think everything on LinkedIn is always going amazing, and I'll be like, that's not the it's hard to be an operator. So
Yeah.
I think the best founders that I've backed have been the folks at Rad AI, the folks at Proxima, and a bunch of other companies that they're just exceptional operators. But most importantly, they understood that you need to get the biology right before you can get the AI going.
Right.
Right, and I think everybody's taking a reverse, like, because it's garbage in, garbage out on AI, and
Mhm.
Mother Nature still works in mysterious ways, right? Like,
Mhm.
so we can't
Yeah.
just force function it from 0 to 1, right?
Yeah, interesting. It's like all the amazing my client Nick at Potato calls it, gosh, he had a great I bought the slop.
Yeah,
That's what it was.
yeah, yeah, it
Sorry.
is. I mean, it's almost a flywheel, right? Because all you're doing is testing a different hypotheses and seeing, okay, are they accidentally correct, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
so
But you have to test them.
exactly, right.
So what areas of innovation are you really excited about? Like maybe just in general, but also maybe investing in?
Yeah, you know, when I came to AIX Ventures, one of the fundamental hypotheses that I came, speaking of testing, that like was for the first time in human history, we're taking biology as a coding problem and a
Mhm.
software problem and able to sufficiently engineer it on a first principles basis. And as an engineer, I was like, man, there's got to be a way to do this in a scalable way where we can actually answer questions correctly, but do it in a way that's actually scalable and can actually ultimately turn into a drug, a therapeutic diagnostic, et cetera, that somebody can actually receive and democratize access to that, right? Like, so as we were building the practice, one of the biggest things is that I was like, okay, we've got these full stack AI native platform companies that are doing, I guess it's called TechBio 3.0 now already, you know, and when TechBio first came out, I was like, isn't that just the word biotech reverse? And then somebody just raised a bunch of money off of that, and I was like, "Oh, man," like,
There you
not another one of these,
go. Good
like
marketing.
exactly, because when I first heard it, I was like, "Did I miss the memo on something that, like"
Something really cool happening?
exactly, is it gonna be IA instead of AI now? Like, I don't know, man, but when I dug under it, I realized I was like, "Okay, there's something very cool happening here where we can take these in silico outputs of these models, and we can actually test them in wet lab biology instantaneously, and then create this closed loop
Yeah.
that hopefully, like,
Mm.
it doesn't take 10 years and $1 billion to bring the next set of drugs through. And I think it's cool to see like that coming to fruition, but there's also a bunch of ways to screw that up, right? And I think in biotech, you notice this whole thing, a dichotomy between platforms and drugs, right? Where like a lot of biotech investors still can't really underwrite it. And they'll be like, wow, that's such a cool platform that does like a zillion things. Come back to us when you actually have drugs, right?
Right.
And the AI people were like, I don't know anything about drugs, man, but
Yeah.
your AI sounds super sweet, right? And
Yeah.
that dichotomy, I built the practice to answer that at one time so
Okay.
that founders tell one story all
Mhm.
the time and don't have to ping pong constantly. It's kind of like, that split between East Coast and West Coast investors. We built it to be the barbell in between. So,
Cool.
yeah.
So you do you coach your startups?
Oh, man, I think on the board level, so I typically take a board director seat on most of the companies,
Okay.
and it's kind of like human emotional crisis management constantly, right? I always say that science is easy, humans are the hard part,
Mhm.
right? And it's really hard to build multidisciplinary teams, right, that have the AI freaking natures with the traditional wet lab scientists, with like, a chief medical officer, et cetera, right? And getting them all to like play together in areas that they never did. And that's where cool stuff happens. But also
It's
it's
friction.
yeah, it's a lot of stuff, right? Like, and when you have these frontier lab teams that have like 20 Michael Jordans on the team, getting them to put their egos aside and come together and build something generational, it's a lot of work. So I think that's the interesting part because oftentimes I'll be like, well, the science worked like a lot faster than it did the co-founder relationships
Yeah.
or like any of the other stuff.
And you need that to work to like for it to like grow and
Totally right. Because in this business, you're underwriting the jockey while they're building the horse, right? And you gotta make sure that that jockey's crushing it. And so,
let me see what other questions I had for you. Have you ever do you have any examples of where AI maybe isn't working?
oh yeah, all the time. I mean, I think like every time I underwrite a deal, right, you need to show me like AI is we've been using biology for a while, right? It's like nothing new. It's just the next generation bioinformatics tool. But like I need to understand how do you go from a drug hit to a drug, actual viable drug in human trials, faster, cheaper, right? And if you aren't showing that to me, then it ends up being more of a feature and like a vitamin and not like a painkiller. And I think when you talk to a lot of founders, they'll be like, amazing, you're screening stuff until we die. Like, this is so cool, I guess. But like, pharma only cares about like the drugs that you're making. And if you're not doing it in a way that is actually reducing the capital required to develop it, like ultimately, I feel like it's a fail for humanity, right? Because if like I've worked on a lot of cell therapies where it would be like, wow, we just spent like $1 billion developing this treatment protocol costs $3 million for a patient.
That's
Like
realistic.
if like you have these, next generation therapeutics that came out of this fancy AI stuff and nobody can afford it, and then you didn't really democratize access to
You
it.
didn't
Right?
think about like how you're gonna make it affordable as you're going as I don't know. I guess you can create the drug, but then you have to re-engineer it to be
Correct.
affordable.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to
Yeah.
figure out the manufacturing and then you have to figure out the complexities. But the problem is that that process to get there was already a slog. It sucked.
Yeah.
You spent a lot of money, a lot of
Right.
time, right? So a lot of the founders, the biggest thing I need to understand is how are we going to hit these clinical endpoints faster? But most importantly, are you training these models off of human data? And I think this has been the Achilles heel of this business of I like to say we solved all the diseases in mice. It's incredible. They're gonna live forever,
It's
man.
gonna live forever.
It's amazing.
No
Every time I
Alzheimer's
look at it,
decline.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. I'm like, dude, you guys are crushing it. This mouse doesn't have high cholesterol. It's dementia free. It's gonna be crushing life. And then I look at it, and then it just bombs in human trials, right?
Yeah.
Because the problem is that even though we're trying transgenic mice and everything, they're great, but the FDA, and I think this was paramount, is now willing to accept predicate data from other sources beyond animal models. And I think this is where technologies like organoids that have been on the sideline for a long time are now all of a sudden super sexy, right? And whatever we can do to solve that biological black box problem and translatability crisis, right? So that's why a lot of the companies I backed are actually building off of that human centric layer so that I know that the asset that came out of that platform, it's probably going to do super well because it was trained off of the humans. And even that, right? There's still a lot of bias on the data procurement, right? It's normally, white males between the ages of like 20 and 60, right?
Yeah.
You look at a clinical cohort and you have all different ages, ethnicities, like, and then you're like, well, we're still screwed. So I think that's probably the hidden part
Thank
behind
you.
all of that, right?
Thank you
Yeah.
for thinking of us women. We've
You
been
know?
not thought of for so long.
It's wild.
I have all these autoimmune things and I get tested and they're like, oh, we think you have this. We think
Sure.
there's no blood test for it. It's just like, can you move your finger to your arm?
Okay.
Ehlers-Danlos stuff.
Yeah.
And like there's research coming out, but I don't know if it's going to turn into drugs. I'm hopeful.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, it's the same thing behind the engineering of seatbelts, right? They were designed for men originally, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny that you look at the data on that and you're like, what?
Yeah. So that's cool. I'm glad to hear that you're at the forefront of bringing really cool, innovative drugs to real people and women.
Yeah. We'll see if there's another parallel universe of alien creatures out there or whatever that can benefit, but we'll never know. Who knows?
Who knows? That's
So-
a different show.
That's right. So,
Although I do love that topic. Don't get
I don't know. I'll probably hang out with Joe Rogan and talk shop about that. So we'll see.
Really?
So,
You should.
yeah.
You should. So what that would be how to get on his show, and then you could slip in the real science.
100%.
Yeah.
All part of it, So,
Last question. Why did you come to SynBio Beta this year?
yeah, the organizer, John, is a good friend of mine.
Okay.
So slightly biased on that. But I think John and I shared a common vision of understanding like how do we bring in more of the AI native funds that love the concept of biology, but it's super gnarly. It's
Yeah,
not
it's
something like you'd pick up, you know?
yeah.
So I went to school for like 14 years and I still don't understand it. Like, you know, so it's like,
It's nature.
yeah, exactly. Right. You know, and you've got so much stuff. And tech, I find it's like the easy part, right? It's easy every time. Like our fund is set up where TechBio is about 25% of the portfolio, 75% is AI apps and infra. And that stuff moves super fast, right?
Yeah.
Like you can get markups like monopoly money, right? Biology on the other end, as soon as you add the word bio to .ai, your market cap just drops like 100x, right? So I think trying to figure out how we can get tech forward multiples on biology, but going from the only way to unlock that, right, is to turn it into a predictive discipline as opposed to a drilling for oil and kind of crossing your fingers kind of thing, right? We'll see.
Are you excited about some of these like robotic generate mixed with AI digital twin labs like Hi-Res Bio and Geeko, just like some of the infrastructure of robotics? Do you think that'll speed things up?
Yeah, I think, you know, robots are always cool. I mean, nobody's ever going to diss robots. And I think a lot of the companies, you know, I backed the first set of robotic cloud automated labs, right? And the biggest learning from that is, A, robots are expensive. They will burn money in perpetuity. But the main thing is like, if you're not full stack automating, right, end to end on wet lab stuff, it's really hard, right? Because no scientist wants to have a lab bench of 50 different instruments.
Yeah, right.
And then, like, even if they'll be like, well, 5 of these are automated by the robot, right? But then you'll be like, well, then the other processes are still manual and it's kind of redundant, right? So I think we're getting there. Like companies like Medra and Parallel Bio and a bunch of others are doing full stack end to end and then layering the AI automation architecture on it. But the most important thing is that, like, as we're building that, a lot of the data needs to be data laked and terraformed into forming the next set of hypotheses on the experiment. So I think that's probably the most exciting thing of being like, okay, great, we're getting past the liability of having a human in the lab and redundancy and, you know, spill coffee on lab books. But like when we're creating a true closed loop system now with the robotic architecture, are we able to capture that data feed that's coming out of that and then be able to iterate on the
Yeah,
next set and then get better at that experimental protocol like super quickly, right? And do that in a way that can actually push drug development into that kind of systematic, you know, programmable domain. But a lot of work to be done, but it's still cool nonetheless. And,
Yeah.
and we're seeing that happen where robots in biology are now speaking to each other. It's just doing it in a way that actually shows that you're able to accelerate drug development faster.
You can like read the petri dish.
Exactly. So it's like, you know, when they're talking about, well, I have humanoid robots in the lab. And I was like, that sounds insanely expensive. The same thing, right? So it's like, I appreciate having an iRobot vacuum, but spending, you know, I could also just get a manual handheld one, do the job probably the same way, you know, it's like, but
Is it
so-
really, when is it really helpful?
exactly, right. So
Well, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Chris. Thank you for speaking bio with me.
always appreciate time to nerd out. Well,
Sweet.
yeah. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
This was fun.
It was really cool to hear your perspectives.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
Don't forget to subscribe or follow Talk Bio to Me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube today for episodes dropping very soon.